It's a scientific dictatorship of eugenics, and the Nazis were only one manifestation of what the Milner Group developed to tear up Europe, so then again, the Anglo-American establishment could come in as the savior. See, the Anglo-American establishment can't come into the Middle East unless they fund radical Muslims to tear up stuff so they have an excuse. They can't come into Europe and take over France and the Netherlands and all these other countries unless they can come in and put a Hitler in to do it. You know, again, they are just masters at engineering these systems and then using the Nazis on the continent and all those funds and treasure they amassed, telling the rich doctors and scientists and the Crumps and the elites, join with us now. Here's the real eugenics plan. Go underground into a corporate state, which is what Lord Milner wanted in the teens 30 years before, and we'll let you in on the real system. And then they did, and now Germany's the main engine of the European Union. I mean, these guys are sophisticated, Paul.
Indeed they are. What we need to remember is that, you know, most individuals, most MEPs in the European Union Parliament are not Nazis, but the origins of their organisation is, and the very nature of the European Union in that it seeks to remove power from national governments who are accountable to their citizens, to their electorate, and centralise it into the hands of an elite that are electable to nobody but themselves, is by its very own nature totalitarian.
Well, look,
so even if you don't believe that it had Nazi origins, which are now proven, it is totalitarian by its very nature.
Well, exactly, I mean, Paul. But let me go ahead, Paul.
You've got the Lisbon Treaty coming up again in autumn. Now they can't ratify it without every member state giving the go-ahead, and the only one that's opposed it is Ireland, because that's the only one, apart from a few others, that allowed it to go to referendum. And because Ireland voted no, they're just going to make them vote on it again. They won't take no for an answer.
Stay there. We'll do a final segment with you, and then I promise get through the calls that have been holding. Then I'm going to cover the attacks on free speech and news blitz for the rest of the show. Got a whole other hour coming up. Key, saving the most important stuff for last coming up. But I've got some comments on what Paul's covering as well that are very important when we get back. Stay with us. If you study Adolf Hitler, you'll learn that he believed that everybody should become vegetarians by law. I'm not attacking vegetarians, folks. I'm just stating facts here. That there should be laws against hunting. He was against hunting. He was basically more akin to a PETA supporter than anything else. And he believed in culling humans. And he believed in keeping small groups of blacks alive in certain areas of Africa, kind of as a zoo, would keep alive elephants or something. As a laboratory example, he believed that they would let the Japanese dominate and cull the Asian populations. They were going to take over all of Russia and Central Asia and exterminate everyone who didn't pass muster. Same thing with most of the Latin American nations. And this is what they believed in. Now, when you see things like carbon taxes proposed in the 60s, this comes right out of Club of Rome, right out of Bilderberg Group. Prince Philip and Prince Bernhard, both Nazis on record. In fact, Prince Philip, we forget about the consort, the Duke of Edinburgh, to the Queen of England. He was a Nazi. His sisters all married Nazis. They're all Nazis. They're all Nazis. And you can say what you want about who runs the world and what the system is. The facts are the facts. And they are carrying out eugenics. And Endgame, I think, gives you the best picture to understand that overall. But in closing, Paul Watson, they're going forward with their world government plan. And I just hope that the white supremacists understand out there that this eugenics model out there is for them as well. The elites are going after whoever they think actually has genetics that they don't control that, quote, threatens them. They want to kill the, quote, subhumans and the quote, middle class, that they see of genetics that might challenge them. And I hope people realize that. I mean, no matter who you are, 99% of us are in deep trouble under this system. So we better all come together against the New World Order. And then whatever policy the New World Order's got, we should be against that policy. Paul Watson.
Right. I also find it interesting to know from what you were just talking about that Valerie Giscard d'Estaing, the top Bilderberg member who founded the precursor for the EU with top Nazis, married his cousin. So they all like to keep it in the family, don't they? They're really into that. But what I would say about the European Union is that from its ideology in the 40s, from its Nazi ideology to its empowerment in the decade later, now the agenda's so advanced that the manifestations of its power cannot be hidden anymore, which is why people like Giscard d'Estaing said regarding the Lisbon Treaty, quote, public opinion will be led to adopt, without knowing it, the proposals we dare not present to them directly. Imagine that. So he's saying that basically if we knew what it was really about, we'd never go for it. So it's, but now it's coming out, the free speech issue with the EU. I mean, the Nazis just killed people who spoke out against them, but the EU's found a more successful method, which is just kill their free speech instead. There's actually a European Court of Justice case which establishes the pretext that it's an illegal act to criticize the EU. And in fact, the EU has banned...
that's too important to stay there. Let's come back to 5 more minutes, and I promise I'm going to get to one final round of calls from Randy, Ryan, Robert, Randy. Man, I tell you, it's all our callers today. And then I'm going to get into all this other free speech attacks. And I'll try to go to the beach. It was Big Brother like you've never seen. I'll show you those photos.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Final hour as I make my return to the airwaves this 11th day of May 2009. Big news blitz coming up. Finishing up with Paul Watson. Paul Watson, you were getting into, the European Union's been firing ministers and members of the British government get fired if they criticize the EU. And now I've seen mainstream news articles where people are arrested because they use the word homosexual. That's a hate crime now, because it hurts people's feelings. If something hurts someone's feelings, even if it's a scientific term, like, you said the word bluebird, that hurts my feelings, you're under arrest. They're now proposed a bill. It's getting a lot of co-sponsors here in the United States doing the same thing. That's coming up. But you were talking about the European Union. This is all happening. And now in London, I was reading that every day people are getting stopped and questioned. It's happened to me. It's happened to your brother. She's announcing, your Home Secretary, that there's basically no free speech in England. I mean, this is getting crazy. I mean, they're really doing this.
Well, the controversy regarding Michael Savage, what was not mentioned in that whole controversy was the fact that he was banned from entering Britain based on an EU law that frames it that, political opinions that could be deemed offensive are illegal, because it was under the same laws that a Dutch politician who called the Quran fascist, I believe, he was barred from entering Britain as well, and that's all done under EU laws.
Yeah, I forgot that, Paul. You got to get a blurb up. That's huge news. Nobody has pointed that out but you.
So, from what I was saying before, the manifestations of the EU's power are now so advanced that they're obviously totalitarian. I mean, you've got I posted pictures on prisonplanet.com where the international EU police, because the EU's now got its own international political police force, is firing tear gas at Serbians who are protesting infringements against their sovereignty on behalf of the UN-created globalist client state Kosovo.